Hello and welcome to the first ever podcast, The Athlete's Odyssey. I am your host, Patty Charalambous, and some of you may know me as Kylo. I am a former professional football player from Australia, here based in Sydney. I am a small business owner. I am a technical one-on-one football coach, and for something new now, a podcaster. So a little bit of background of who I am for those who don't know me. Like I said, I am a former professional footballer here in Australia. I've played 4 seasons in the W League, which now is the Women's A League. I have played 3 seasons for Perth Glory, and I have played 1 season under Canberra United. I've also played in the UEFA Women's Champions League back in Cyprus for Apollon Ladies. And I was only 19 when I played Champions League, my very first stint in it. And I also played for Apollon Ladies over in Cyprus. I am also a co-owner of the brand HB1, which is pretty much the ultimate travel backpack or duffel bag, if you will, for sports and traveling. I am the owner of Elite 11 Football, which is my technical one-on-one coaching business. And now I'm still currently playing NPL here in Sydney for Gladesville Ravens. So that is a little bit about myself. And pretty much I'll go into why I want to start this podcast and what motivated me to do it, something new. I'm getting into a space where I want to start being comfortable when not being uncomfortable, comfortable not being uncomfortable. So I'm trying something new that is really out of my comfort zone. And so why I want to start a podcast is to create a new community, a new environment, not only for the listeners, but for a platform for athletes that want to express themselves off the pitch. I think it's important, and it's what our community needs to hear from these athletes that are playing that, young youth look up to. I think it's very important to show a little insight in their life and their struggles and what they had to go through and what their journey has been like. So I want to create something different. It's not your normal football podcast, and it's not going to be about tactics and this player and that coach at this league and that league and movements of players. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be about bringing players on, current players, past players that have been in our game, and pretty much letting them have the microphone and showing and showing their story and let them talk about what they want to talk about, and having those deep conversations about mental health as well in our sport, because I don't think it's spoken enough about, which I think is very important. Being an athlete and having mental health issues, some that I know it is difficult and people struggle and it's not spoken about. So I would like to show a little bit of awareness about the ups and downs when it comes to being an athlete, and hearing from different people and what their struggles are like and what they went through and how they got through it. And to show the viewers what actually happens behind the scenes. And it's not just, you're having a bad day or something's just not going right. There's other things going on in the background to cause these things, unfortunately, and it happens. And it's not just, the mental side, it's also the physical side as well, injuries and things like that. So yeah, I wanted to really start this podcast to start the conversation and the deep bonds as well, and show awareness about that. And there's not going to be any awkward questions, I'd like to say. So I understand as an athlete being in the space. I remember, my first season at Glory. That was back when there was no minimum wage. There was nothing like that. What you got was what you got from the club, and that was your contract. So back then, my first initial contract was only $2,000. So I had to move. Not had to. I chose to, obviously, because I wanted that contract. So I moved over to Perth, and my first initial contract was only $2,000 for that season. So money was a thing back then, and I'm so grateful that my parents were able to be in a situation financially to help me pursue my dreams, because I know, that's very hard for most parents, and most people. So I'm very fortunate and grateful for that. But back to these awkward questions, I'd get, phone calls on interviews from, the radio, or, this person, that person from the media. And the one thing that I was dwelling on is I hope they don't talk or ask me about pay, because back then when I was playing, it was, is it enough? The media was always picking like, is it enough? Do we pay the girls enough? Is it, does it need to be more, or things like that? And not many people knew the inside of pays back then. So I was always daunting that question. I didn't want it. I was trying to avoid it in conversation. And I remember one time I was in the car having this conversation from a radio hostess about, does Glory pay you well enough? Do they pay you well? And I started to sweat. I started to sweat, and like I don't normally sweat that much, and I was just dripping. My arms, my legs in the car was sweating, and I didn't want to say something bad that was bad about the club, but also it was the truth. But I also didn't want to jeopardize my contract, and it's very uncomfortable at the time. It was very, very uncomfortable. So I, had to lie and say, yeah, it's great. The money's not where it should be. I had to, tiptoe around it. So the club was always helping with, housing and things like that. So I had to always tiptoe around awkward questions like that. So the thing I want to talk about is there's not going to be any awkward questions in this space. It's going to be completely a safe space and a safe environment. So what is going to happen in that sense is when I do get guests on, before having them on, I would openly ask them what don't they want to talk about, so they're not uncomfortable. And that's very important, and I'd like to make that clear that it's not going to be an uncomfortable interview or a podcast, a chat. It's just what they want to talk about and how they want to express themselves. That's what it's going to be. And I'd like to educate not just the youth that are coming through and players and fans that want to know, what their favorite player is doing and what their journey was like, but also, parents as well and guardians, coaches, to listen to the struggles and the success from players and learn from them as well. If you have a player in your team, or if you have a child that's struggling with something at the moment, you can always go back to, this player was doing this, or this player also went through this, and, they had to do this, to get through it. And this is what they had to go through to get there. So I'd like to educate as much as I can through this podcast. That is one of the main goals. And what it's gonna look like is I have a lot of friends in the space. I'm fortunate to play with, had to play with, or still playing with current A-League players, and I've been fortunate enough to listen to their stories and to know them personally. So what it will look like is bringing them on, coming on, expressing themselves how they like to wear what they want, not in their gear, and talking just about them and the things that they want to talk about from their career and how they started and, where they are in life now, and their really lowest of low points and their highest of highs, their biggest success and their lowest fails, and how they got up from them. So I'd like to show that, and that's what bringing these athletes on is what it's going to look like. And it's not going to be just, the top athletes that are in our game in A-League. Would like to get some MPL stars coming on as well, people that don't really get the limelight, or people that don't really get a chance to express their stories and express themselves, showing those types of players and really diving deep into how long it took them to get to where how many years it took them to get to where they got to. So I feel like there's a lot of people in our space that do get missed out and don't get that that light shine on them. So I'd like to show that if I can during this podcast and during this challenge and during this new experience that I'm creating. And again, it's going to be a safe space for everyone that comes in and everyone that's listening as well. So I'd like to everyone just respect everything that's been said on here on the internet because I want it to be a safe space. And really, it's their lives that they're going to be talking about and their challenges. So I'd like to make it as safe as I can and in a positive environment as I can. And what the interviews are going to bring to the listeners and the viewers as well is we're giving you an experience where you can listen firsthand of what your favorite players have gone through. And that's pretty much what this is about, is giving you the ultimate experience if you're going to uni, if you're going to school, if you're going to training, if you have some spare time and you just have it on in the background while you're cleaning or anything like that, driving to work. It's pretty much giving you the experience of listening to these incredible athlete stories. So it is a learning podcast and an educational podcast in that space. But it's all going to be positive and just showing people, what it's like to be an athlete and what the ups are and what the downs are and how people have gone through it. We're also going to bring in players that have played previously in years, so players that have been retired for a while. I think it's really good. It's a really good time to show how our game is changing to what is actually from the players that were playing to building up to what we have now. I think it's important because a lot of people don't know a few of the legends that have been around that actually started to create the movement. So it would be really cool to get some of those legends on, like Lena Karmas, Kylie Ledbrook, all those kinds of players on that. Most people, probably youth, don't know who they are, but those are the girls that actually started to pave the way for us, and for their sacrifices. We think about, I made some sacrifices. I know a lot of my friends have. My best friend, playing, I'm not going to name drop, but she's playing for Man City at the moment. Like, just the sacrifices they've had to do and take to pursue their career is ginormous. So looking back at these players that have retired, what they had to sacrifice when it comes to just playing for free and traveling around Australia to play for free because they love it, and starting the movement, starting the conversation about pays over the years, and it's still growing, which is fantastic. But it all started from those players that most people don't know. So it'd be really awesome to get those players on and get a deeper insight to what it was like back then when they were playing, and what they actually had to go through, because it was completely different from when I went through football. So that's kind of what it's going to be. I'm really excited for this new journey and what I'm going to try to create. So what it's going to look like is I'm going to post a video of podcast with a guest every week, and that will most likely probably be at the start of the week. I haven't decided if it's going to be a Monday or a Tuesday, but that is what I'm going for, and I would like to hear from all the viewers and listeners that are interested in the podcast. Any guests that you'd like to hear from, any players in the NPL, any players in the A-League that I don't have on of yet. If you haven't seen anyone that you'd like to hear from, please like and subscribe to the channel and comment below and say who you'd like to hear from. Just a little bit about me as well on the aspect of me playing football. So just a little deep dive. I want to do this podcast about myself a little bit later on, about my journey, but just a little insight in me. I've been playing since I was 4. I don't know if it's a WOG thing, but my dad had me playing from I was 4 pretty much by the time I could start running and stuff, you're on the ball. My dad used to play overseas professionally, so it was kind of a sin if I didn't kick a football from a young age. And so I've been playing since I was a little kid. And I was playing park soccer up until I was probably around about 12. And I remember this lady at the park soccer I was at, Lidcombe Waratahs, said to my mum, is Patty, going to a sports high school? And then my mum said, what's a sports high school? Didn't know anything about a sports high school. Never heard of it. Didn't know if it was a thing, because she was just going to put me in a Catholic high school with my brothers and sisters. And she recommended me going to Westfield Sports, which is arguably probably one of the best sports schools in Australia. And I say arguably because there are people. It's a bit of a battle of the sports schools in Australia, and there is a couple good ones. So I went to Westfields, and yeah, my mum had no idea what it was. So pretty much this lady told my mum and actually wrote me my letter of recommendation for the school. So I went to trials. I think there was like 3 or 4 trials I had to go through, got through, and then I did my whole schooling from Year 7 to Year 12 at Westfields. And that pretty much was an experience in itself, best experience to prepare me to be the best footballer I could be, and mold me into the footballer I am now. And I went through school with some of the best players that are playing now. So you've got Alana Kennedy, you've got Amy Harrison, you've got Rihanna Policina. So there's all these players that are playing at higher levels at the moment. And Alex Horn as well, one of my good friends. And all these players that I've played with, they've played at different levels, and their journeys are completely different. So mine was, I would like to say, a bit late than most people's, most players. So I went through whole school. I never got picked for any, New South Wales team. The only thing I ever went through was New South Wales for futsal. Never anything outside. And that was, I think, maybe one year in football in New South Wales for futsal. I'm pretty sure it was 1 year. And that's the year that we won it. And it was so much fun. And I remember just going to Canberra for that week. Was just when I was, I think, 16 or 15. It was the best, hanging out with your friends all day. So that was the only thing I ever represented in football New South Wales was futsal. And I was always trialing for these A-League clubs, and I could never get in. Was always a train on, and I was a train on for many years. And then when I finished school, I seen a lot of my friends making and playing A-League from when they were 16, 16, 17, when we were still in school. And I was so disappointed in myself of like, why can't I get there? Why can't I get there? So my journey was, again, a little bit different. I went overseas when I was 19 because I was fortunate enough to get my European passport through my father. And I took a chance, and we contacted Apollon Ladies for a trial, and I went over for a trial. I travelled with my parents for 24 hours, got off the plane, went straight to a game against, I think it was 15 boys with the team. So just came off a 24-hour flight, like a travel flight. Get off the plane, went straight to the field, get on, you're playing a game against the boys. So that itself was, I was exhausted, but that was an experience because it was just get off, get in, like jump on, get it done, show them what you're made of, pull your socks up and do it. So I was a bit disappointed because I didn't think like I was, not that I did well, but I was just like, how am I going to perform? Just got off a massive long haul, and now I'm expected to play a game against 15-year-old boys, and it was tough, but I got it done. And then I was training with a team for a couple of days, and we had a meeting with the with the manager and the owner of the club, and they wanted to sign me. So I was so excited and so happy that I just, I was fortunate enough to get the trial. I was fortunate enough to get a European passport, and I just went for it, and I did. And I was so happy that I finally could say that I played professional overseas. At 19, it's pretty rare, and I'm proud of myself for doing that. But what I was not ready for was my parents were leaving in a couple weeks. So I was only 19, fresh out of high school, didn't know how to take care of myself properly. So that itself was an experience of I have to grow up really quick and I have to mature very, very quickly because my parents are on the other side of the world. Sure, I have, a few uncles and aunties close by, but I've never met them in my whole entire life, and I can't really speak the language fluently. So it was quite scary being in a house full of people that you don't know. But I made some amazing friends, and that's another life experience. I made some amazing friends over there that I still talk to this day from America and from Cyprus as well. So that itself, when you go through life and where football I learnt takes you, there's different experiences everywhere on it, and that's what I love about football and the friendships I make and the learning I got from the people that made friends with. So that itself is an experiences in experiences, and that's what I love about it. So I played over there. I made my first stint in Champions League in Austria. We got knocked out in the round of 32. And yeah, that was heartbreaking because, it was really cool experience, and I just wanted to, obviously you always want to just keep going more and more and better. Especially with the players that we had. I think at that time we had really good players. It's just a shame that we couldn't advance. And back then I was playing left back, and people look at me as, you're such a small player. Like, why would you be playing left back? But nowadays a lot of people like me at left back because I'm an attacking player by, naturally. So it's kind of now how football is evolving. Left and right backs are your most dangerous players because people, forget about them. So I kind of grew in that spot quite well over the years. And yeah, so that was my stint overseas for about a year, and came back, and that put me, in a different mind frame of thinking, I've played overseas now, I can easily go into W League, A League. And that wasn't the case. And I took that really hard because I thought, how can I get picked up overseas, for trial and not be picked up here? And I was struggling with that for a while, but I continued to go to trials every year, and I continued to be a train on every year for a couple more years until I was about, I think, was it 22 or 23? I made I think it was 24, 23, 24. I made my debut for Perth Glory. So how that went about was I was playing at Blacktown, this one year, and I pretty much said to my mum, I want to make W League this year. I want to make W League this year. I don't care what it takes. I don't care what I have to do. I'm going to work hard, put my head down, and I'm going to get it done. Because I saw a coach that weekend, and from a previous club, and he said to me, "Oh, I didn't see you at trials." And I said, "Well, I've decided to take an opportunity at another club because I wanted more game time in first grade. So I got an opportunity playing first grade at another club, and I've decided to take it." And the response I got was word for word, "Well, that's great. Good for you. I'm happy that you took that because you would never be playing first grade for me." So that broke me right then and there. And I remember walking with one of my friends, and she said, "Dude, did he actually say that to you?" I was like, "It's fine. I'll take it. but it did break me inside. So I went home that night and I said, Mum, I'm going to make it. I don't care what I have to do. I'm going to make it. So that whole year I spent training with my first grade team, and I spent an hour and a half before training with the under 15 boys at Blacktown. So I spent 6 o'clock to 7:30 training with under 15 boys at Blacktown, and then I walked across to the other pitch from 7:30 to 9 with my first grade team at Blacktown 2 nights a week. So I was on the pitch from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. and I did that the whole year, and I had Newcastle trials and I got knocked back from Newcastle. I was devastated how much work I put in, and the just the disappointment, because I know how hard I worked, and it really hurt me. It really shook me. It made me feel something that I haven't felt before with my mental health, and I went down, and I even got an agent that year too to help me, because I didn't know coaches, I didn't know people, I didn't have connections, I didn't know who to talk to. So I went, if I'm going to do it right. I want someone to represent me to get my foot in the door, give me that chance. So I did that, and he got me the trial at Jets, and I didn't make it. So I was really upset. Not at anyone, just myself, because maybe I didn't work hard enough. So that really dwelled on me for a little bit, and then I went down a spiral. Like, I don't want to play anymore. I just want to give up. I hate it. Don't want to do it. I've given it everything. I've given this sport everything. I'm not going to make it. I don't want to do it. And then I get a phone call from my agent a couple of weeks later. What are you doing? I'm at home. My parents are away. They left, for Cyprus for 6 weeks. They go away every year. 6 weeks holidays. So they were away. And I was just in this deep dive in depression, because I wanted to make it so bad here, and I didn't, and I couldn't, and I was just so upset. And I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know who to talk to. I had no one at home at the time, and I was just, playing it in my mind, talking to myself, you're not good enough, you're never going to be good enough, you never were good enough, and just talking really negative to myself. And I was in a bad space. And he said, I've got you one more trial. And I said, I don't want to go. Where is it? I don't even want to go. And he said, it's in Perth. I said, I can't go. I can't go, Chris. I don't want to go. And he said, just humour me and go. And I remember at the time I only had $1,700 in my bank account. And he said, it's 1 week trial. I told him that you'd go, so you have to go. And it didn't matter. I really felt, okay, I can't let him down now. He's one person as well as my family that believes in me. He took this chance on me because he didn't really at the time deal with female athletes, this agent. And he saw something in me, so he took a chance on me, and he made it work. He got opportunities for me. He did. So he got me this opportunity at Glory at a week trial. I spent all my money that I had on flights to Perth, because they're bloody expensive. And I also spent all my money on a car to get me around for the week, and a little Airbnb as well. So I was actually working at Bunnings at the time, and I lost my job at Bunnings because it was a risk I was willing to take. I just risked it all, said screw it. 1,700 left. Yeah, let's go. Parents aren't here. All right, let's do it. So I went, and I was nervous again, but I was in a mind frame of just screw it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I'm in a new city. I can, have a look around, see what it's about, but I'm going to give it everything I got, because it's the last chance I got. So I said, screw it. Let's just run it and see what happens. So I gave it everything I got. 3 days later, I get a phone call from my agent. He said, hey kid, what's going on? How you feeling? I said, yeah, not bad. Like, I feel like I'm doing good. And he goes, well, that's good, So I just got off the phone to Bobby, and I was like, oh no, like, he told me to get, like, he wants me on the next flight out, like, he doesn't rate me. And he said, no. And I said, well, why is he calling you so early? Like, I just thought instant, like, I didn't make it. And he goes, well, he wants to sign you. And I just like, I was on the stairs and I just dropped to the stairs and I said, what'd you say? And he's like, he wants to sign you as a left back. He says he sees potential in you. And I just started like crying, bawling my eyes out because I didn't know if it was real or not. And for the year that I've had pushing myself, all those hours at training, as well as extra sessions on the side, just to make it. And I finally made it here, and that's what I always wanted. And I was so happy. I was so alone as well because I was in another state by myself, and my parents were overseas, and I couldn't share it with anyone. And it was just a wholesome moment of my agent at the time telling me how proud he was and how hard I've worked, and he can see it, and he believed in me, and it was so nice. And it was it's just something that I guess you overwhelm with emotions, because I guess athletes know that when you work so hard, anything in life really, if you work so hard and it's all you ever wanted and you finally make it, you feel so accomplished, like you did it. And that's how I felt at that moment in time. And I will never forget that feeling because that was the best feeling it was. Because when I was really young overseas, I don't think personally I was in a mature mind frame to actually realize the opportunity that I had. And not that I don't regret it. Like I love the experience, but I think if I was a little bit more older in that time, then and a bit more developed in the player that I was and like now, then I think I would have done a lot better over there. So and all I ever wanted was to make it here and to play in front of my family at a professional level, and I did. So that instant emotion, I can't. I'm trying to explain it. It was amazing. I will never forget that feeling. So that was it for me. That was my start. I played 3 seasons at Glory, and I played 1 season at Canberra United. So both clubs are different, and my journey continued from there. I continued to develop and grow into a footballer that I am now and a person that I am now. I found a lot of things about myself that I was hiding in my career and in my life. So because of football and the friends that I've made on this journey, on my own journey, that I will then get into a podcast later on, a little bit more deep diver about who I am as a person and off the field, because I would love to share that. I think it's the right time to do so for my own journey and my own happiness. I will do that later on. But yeah, just growing as a footballer and finding those things about myself on the journey has been amazing and incredible. And I'm so grateful for the friends that I've made along the way, both on and off the field, and the people that I've met along the way too. So I guess my journey isn't ended yet. I'm still playing, like I said, locally for Gladesville Ravens in the NPL 1 here in Sydney. And I also played last year in the Victorian League down there, NPL 1 in Victoria, which that was, a new experience for me, living in another city, playing, football down there. So there's a lot of things that are happening, after football now. I'm coaching. I'm want to create this new community of a podcast and show other people's journey and things like that, and getting a deeper dive in emotion and the struggles, injuries, how they overcome those things as well. So yeah, that's a little bit about me, about my journey of what I've done, and a little insight in it. I never gave up. Even in those moments that I wanted to, and my mind was telling me to give up because you're just not good enough. And it is a very toxic thing, but I had to push through it, and I did, because I didn't want to let the people that believed in me down, and I had to push through it, and I did, and in the end, as hard as it was, and my journey was, it started off, a little bit later than most of my friends or people that I know and people that I'm going to have on here that are playing professionally since they were teenagers, it's all a little bit different, and that's what I'd love to show. So yeah, my journey's still going. I'm coaching now. I love helping the youth and giving them insight on technical things, and showing them a different insight of the game. In my eyes, I think it's really important to understand and show the whys of the movements and the things that we do, and give them the reason instead of just showing them. And yeah, so that's what pretty much this podcast is going to be about. I'm really excited for it. Again, it's something very new to me. So along this journey, I will be learning and growing. And I'm really excited to have my friends and people that I've grown with and played with, and people that I don't know, that I know of, getting them on, and getting to know them as well, and giving them the microphone to speak about whatever they want to speak about, and showing them who they are as a person. So that's pretty much it for today's podcast. If it's something that you like, again, please like and subscribe, and comment on who you'd like to see. Who are the players from the fans that you'd like to see, who you'd like to hear from, and what stories you'd like. If you are interested, please share this, and get around it. Thank you again for tuning in for this podcast. It was fun to talk and get out of my comfort zone for a little bit. I hope it wasn't too bad. But yeah, thank you again for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this first ever podcast of the Athletes Odyssey. I had so much fun out of my comfort zone, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next week with our first guest. Thank you again.